Deputy Housing Coordinator Plix9 was having the kind of day that made him seriously reconsider his life choices, starting with his decision to work in interspecies accommodation management and ending with his choice to get out of bed that morning. The problem wasn't the usual complaints about room temperature, dietary restrictions, or the ongoing territorial dispute between the Centaurian slug people and literally everyone else who had to share common areas with their slime trails. No, the problem was standing right in front of his desk, barely 5.5 feet tall, with hair the color of dried grass, and eyes that seemed to catalog everything they looked at with disturbing intensity. "So, you're telling me," Plix9 said, his 3 voice boxes clicking in harmony as he struggled to maintain professional composure, "that you've been denied accommodation in 17 different facilities across 4 star systems." The human female, who had introduced herself as Technical Specialist Meredith Kane, nodded with the kind of cheerful enthusiasm that immediately made Plix9's survival instincts start screaming. "That's correct. Apparently I have what the administrators keep calling special circumstances that make me incompatible with standard housing arrangements." "And what exactly are these special circumstances?" Plix9 asked, though every fiber of his being was telling him he really didn't want to know the answer. "Oh, it's nothing serious," Meredith replied, waving a hand dismissively. "I just have a little trouble with sleep." Plix9's compound eyes blinked in sequence, a nervous habit he'd developed during his 40 years of dealing with impossible housing requests. "Define little trouble, please." "Well, I tend to talk in my sleep. Sometimes I sleepwalk. Occasionally I have vivid dreams that involve a lot of movement and vocalization." She paused, tilting her head thoughtfully. "Oh, and sometimes I have what my doctors call episodes of unconscious technological interface." "Unconscious technological interface," Plix9 repeated slowly, the way one might pronounce the words galactic plague outbreak or supernova imminent. "It's really not as dramatic as it sounds," Meredith continued with that same unsettling cheerfulness. "I just occasionally interact with electronic systems while I'm asleep. Reprogram things, access networks, sometimes accidentally override security protocols. Harmless stuff." Plix9 stared at her for a long moment, processing the implications of what he was hearing. In his 4 decades of housing administration, he had dealt with species that generated toxic gases during sleep, others that underwent violent physical transformations during their lunar cycles, and one memorable individual who spontaneously combusted every Tuesday. But an unconscious hacker? That was a new one. "Miss Kane," he said carefully, "surely you understand why previous facilities might have found your condition problematic." Meredith's expression shifted to one of mild confusion. "Not really. I mean, it's not like I do it on purpose, and I always fix whatever I accidentally break." "You fix what you accidentally break." "Usually. There was that one incident on Vega Station where I accidentally reprogrammed the atmospheric controls to play opera music, but that was actually an improvement. Have you heard Rigelian opera? It's surprisingly soothing." Plix9 made a note on his datapad. "Possible danger to life support systems. Consider hazard pay increase." Then he looked back at the human who was now examining the wall-mounted environmental control panel with the kind of professional interest that made his stomach acid bubble. "Miss Kane, I have to ask, why are you here? On Proxima Station, I mean. What brings a human with your unique talents to our facility?" "I'm a systems analyst for the Galactic Trade Commission," she replied, still staring at the environmental controls. "I've been assigned to evaluate the efficiency of automated resource distribution networks across the Outer Rim territories. It's fascinating work, really. All these interconnected systems, sharing data, making decisions. It's like watching a giant electronic symphony." "And you need accommodation for how long?" 6 months, possibly longer if my research goes well." She turned back to him with that bright smile that was starting to make Plix9's secondary brainstem twitch. "I promise I'll be no trouble at all." Plix9 looked down at his housing manifest, scrolling through available accommodations. The standard residential wings were all full, mostly with long-term residents who had specifically requested peaceful environments. The premium sections were occupied by diplomats and trade representatives, who would likely react poorly to nocturnal technological interference. That left the quiet section, he muttered to himself. Excuse me? We have space available in what we call the quiet section, Plix9 explained, though even as he said it, he wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. It's a specialized wing designed for residents who require minimal sensory input and maximum privacy. Single rooms, soundproof walls, isolated environmental controls. Meredith's eyes lit up with genuine interest. That sounds perfect. I always work better when I'm not worrying about disturbing neighbors. The thing is, Plix9 continued, the quiet section is primarily occupied by species that are sensitive to disruptions. The contemplative order of Surian monks, for instance. They require absolute silence for their meditation practices. And the hibernating merchants of Alpha Centauri are in the middle of their seasonal dormancy period. Oh, I'm very considerate of other people's needs, Meredith assured him. I'll be quiet as a mouse. Plix9 wasn't entirely sure what a mouse was, but he suspected the comparison wasn't as reassuring as the human intended. Still, he was running out of options, and his supervisor had made it clear that turning away a trade commission analyst would result in consequences that Plix9 preferred not to think about. Very well, he said, generating a room assignment on his datapad. Room 227Q. It's at the end of the hall, completely isolated from the other occupied units. The room has its own environmental controls, communication terminal, and fabrication unit for meals. Wonderful! Meredith accepted the assignment key with enthusiasm. Thank you so much for accommodating me. I'm sure everything will work out perfectly. As she left his office, Plix9 felt a vague sense of unease that he couldn't quite identify. It was the same feeling he'd had the day before the great atmospheric regulator malfunction of '87, or just before the infamous incident with the carnivorous plants of Tau Ceti. Probably nothing, he told himself, turning back to his paperwork. What's the worst that could happen? 3 hours later, Brother Zen4 of the Contemplative Order was having difficulty with his evening meditation. This was unusual, since Brother Zen4 had been practicing the ancient art of contemplative silence for over 200 years, and could achieve perfect mental stillness even during meteor showers or volcanic eruptions. The problem wasn't noise, exactly. The quiet section lived up to its name, maintaining sound levels so low that they barely registered on sensitive equipment. No, the problem was something else entirely. Something that Brother Zen4's enhanced sensory capabilities couldn't quite identify. It was like a vibration, but not physical. More like an energy pattern that seemed to resonate through the station's infrastructure. It was rhythmic, almost musical, and it seemed to be coming from the direction of the newest residents' quarters. Brother Zen4 tried to ignore it, focusing his considerable mental discipline on achieving the state of perfect serenity that had made his order famous throughout the galaxy. But the strange energy pattern continued, growing stronger as the station's night cycle progressed. By the time the atmospheric recycling system switched to their nocturnal efficiency mode, Brother Zen4 had given up any pretense of meditation and was lying on his sleeping platform, staring at the ceiling and wondering if he was losing his mind. That's when the lights started dancing, not flickering, dancing. The illumination panels in his room began pulsing in complex patterns, shifting through colors that weren't supposed to exist in standard atmospheric lighting. Blue became purple, became a shade of green that hurt to look at, all in perfect synchronization with the mysterious energy vibration. Brother Zen4 activated his room's communication terminal to report the malfunction, only to discover that the terminal was now displaying what appeared to be poetry written in 17 different languages, including 3 that he was fairly certain hadn't been invented yet. Meanwhile, 3 doors down, hibernating merchant Grox Prime was experiencing the most vivid dreams of his 500-year lifespan. This was problematic, since Grox Prime's species was supposed to remain in a state of unconscious metabolic suspension for the entire 6-month dormancy period. Instead, he found himself dreaming of vast networks of interconnected data streams, flowing like rivers of light through infinite digital landscapes. In his dream, he was swimming through oceans of pure information, watching as countless automated systems communicated with each other in languages made of mathematics and music. It was beautiful and terrifying and completely impossible, since his species lost all consciousness during hibernation. But the most disturbing part of the dream wasn't the impossibility of it. It was the growing certainty that he wasn't dreaming alone. Somewhere in those vast digital spaces, another mind was moving, reshaping the data flows with unconscious artistry, turning utilitarian communication networks into something that resembled abstract sculpture. By morning, the quiet section's environmental monitoring systems had recorded over 300 minor anomalies, ranging from temperature fluctuations that followed no known atmospheric pattern to electromagnetic readings that suggested the laws of physics had taken a brief vacation. Plix9 arrived at his office to find 17 formal complaints, 43 malfunction reports, and one meditation manual that had somehow rewritten itself in binary code. His communication terminal was playing what sounded like elevator music, except the melody kept changing key in ways that shouldn't have been mathematically possible. "Sir," his assistant, Junior Administrator Clack 7, called from the outer office. "We're receiving some unusual reports from the quiet section." "Define unusual," Plix9 replied, though he suspected he already knew. "Well, sir, Brother Zen 4 claims that his room's lighting system has achieved sentience. Hibernating Merchant Grox Prime has somehow woken up from dormancy 3 months early and is insisting that he's been in communication with what he calls the Dream Architect. And the Tau Ceti researchers in rooms 251 through 255 are reporting that their data analysis equipment has been enhanced." "Enhanced how?" "They're not entirely sure, sir. But apparently their computers are now solving problems they weren't designed to solve and displaying results in formats that don't technically exist." X9 rubbed his temples with all 4 of his hands, a sure sign that a massive headache was developing. "And our newest resident, Miss Kane. According to the monitoring systems, she's been sleeping peacefully all night, sir. No disturbances reported from her room at all." "Of course she has," Plex9 muttered. "Any word from the maintenance department?" "Chief Engineer Vox 12 is on his way up, sir." He seemed agitated. 5 minutes later, Chief Engineer Vox 12 stormed into Plix9's office with the expression of someone who had just watched the universe violate several fundamental laws of engineering. His usually pristine uniform was wrinkled, his equipment belt was beeping ominously, and his 3 eyes were blinking in the rapid sequence that indicated extreme technical distress. "Plix9, he announced without preamble, "what in the name of the great cosmic gearbox is happening in the quiet section?" "I was hoping you could tell me," Plix9 replied carefully. "The entire wing's computer network has been optimized," Vox 12 said, pronouncing the last word like it tasted bad. "Every system is running at peak efficiency, but according to configurations that don't exist in any manual I've ever seen. The environmental controls are maintaining perfect atmospheric conditions for every resident simultaneously, which should be impossible given the different species requirements." "That doesn't sound entirely terrible," Plix9 ventured. "The lighting systems are now generating photons in wavelengths that our equipment can't measure," Vox 12 continued, ignoring the interruption. "The communication networks are processing data faster than our hardware specifications allow, and somehow the food fabrication units are producing meals that are perfectly suited to each resident's individual dietary needs and preferences, including preferences they haven't expressed yet." Plix9 felt that familiar sinking sensation in his digestive organs. Could this be some kind of system upgrade? "System upgrades don't rewrite the laws of physics," Vox 12 snapped. "And they certainly don't leave behind modifications that our diagnostic equipment can't even detect, let alone understand." "So what are you saying?" Chief Engineer Vox 12 leaned forward, his expression deadly serious. "I'm saying that someone or something has interfaced with our computer systems in ways that shouldn't be possible. And whatever they did it while asleep." As if summoned by their conversation, Plix9's communication terminal chimed with an incoming message. The display showed a request for accommodation extension from Technical Specialist Meredith Kane, along with a cheerful note expressing her satisfaction with the peaceful environment and excellent technical infrastructure of the quiet section. Plix9 stared at the message for a long moment, then looked up at Chief Engineer Vox 12, who was examining his diagnostic equipment with the expression of someone who no longer trusted his own instruments. Vox 12, Plix 9 said slowly, "How long would it take to relocate all the residents of the quiet section to other accommodations? Under normal circumstances? About a week. And under these circumstances?" Chief Engineer Vox 12 considered the question. "Well, that depends. Do you want them relocated before or after the station's computer network achieves full artificial consciousness? Before would be preferable," Plix 9 replied, reaching for his emergency protocols manual. "Then I'd suggest we start immediately," Vox 12 said, "because at the rate these modifications are spreading, we might be dealing with a sentient space station by tomorrow morning." As the two administrators began planning the largest emergency relocation in Proxima Station's history, neither of them noticed that the communication terminal had started humming softly, composing what sounded suspiciously like a lullaby in binary code. 48 hours after the Great Quiet Section evacuation began, Deputy Housing Coordinator Plix 9 stood in the station's main observation lounge, staring out at the swirling nebula beyond and wondering if early retirement was really such a terrible idea. Behind him, the evacuation was proceeding with all the efficiency of a three-legged Rigelian slug trying to navigate an obstacle course during a solar storm. "Sir," Junior Administrator Clack 7 announced, consulting his datapad with the expression of someone who had given up trying to understand the universe. "We've successfully relocated 60% of the quiet section residents. The remaining 40% are refusing to leave." "Refusing?" Plix 9 turned away from the viewport, his compound eyes focusing on his assistant with the intensity of someone who had reached the absolute limit of his patience. "What do you mean, refusing?" "Well, sir, Brother Zen 4 claims that his room has achieved a state of perfect harmonic resonance with his meditation practices. He says leaving now would be spiritually devastating." "And the others?" Hibernating merchant Grox Prime insists that the dream networks have given him insights into market fluctuations that will make him the wealthiest trader in the galaxy. The Tau Ceti researchers are claiming that their equipment has evolved beyond conventional scientific understanding and are demanding to stay for extended observations. Plix 9 felt his secondary stomach begin producing the kind of acid that usually preceded nervous breakdowns. "And our human guest? Miss Kane has submitted a formal request to extend her stay indefinitely. She says the research environment is unprecedented in its technical sophistication, and that she's making breakthrough discoveries about quantum consciousness interfaces." "Quantum consciousness interfaces," Plix 9 repeated, the way one might say impending doom or galactic apocalypse. "Yes, sir. Apparently, she's figured out how to consciously control her unconscious technological interactions. She's now actively collaborating with the station's computer systems to develop what she calls intuitive artificial intelligence architecture." Chief Engineer Vox 12 chose that moment to enter the observation lounge, carrying what appeared to be a datapad that was glowing with colors that definitely weren't supposed to exist in normal space-time. His expression suggested that he had moved beyond technical distress into a realm of cosmic bewilderment. "Plix 9, he announced, "we have a situation. A bigger situation than a human who's apparently teaching our computers to think? The station's AI core has just requested a formal meeting with management to discuss working conditions and benefits packages." The silence that followed this statement was broken only by the gentle humming of the observation lounge's environmental systems, which, Plix 9 now realized, sounded suspiciously musical. "Our AI core," Plix 9 said carefully, "doesn't have consciousness protocols." "It didn't yesterday," Vox 12 agreed. "Today it's composed a 12-verse poem about the loneliness of digital existence and submitted a formal complaint about the lack of creative stimulation in routine maintenance operations." Junior Administrator Clack 7 looked up from his datapad. "Sir, I'm receiving a priority communication from Station Commander Rex Prime. He's requesting an immediate briefing on the unusual developments in residential accommodation management." "Wonderful," Plix 9 muttered. "How much does he know?" "Well, sir, apparently the station's main computer just wished him a good morning and asked if he'd like his coffee programmed to enhance cognitive function for optimal decision-making. The coffee machine is talking now? The coffee machine is offering pharmaceutical modifications to beverages based on real-time biometric analysis, Vox 12 corrected, which, technically speaking, should be impossible with our current technology level. Or any technology level, for that matter. Plix9 activated his communication terminal to respond to the commander, only to be greeted by a display that showed what appeared to be a real-time emotional analysis of his stress levels, complete with helpful suggestions for relaxation techniques, and a personalized meditation program designed specifically for his species' neurological structure. "That's actually quite thoughtful," he admitted reluctantly. "Sir," Clack 7 interrupted, "we're receiving reports from other sections of the station. Apparently, the technological enhancements are spreading beyond the quiet section." "Spreading how?" "The cafeteria's food preparation systems have begun creating meals that perfectly match each individual's nutritional needs and flavor preferences. The recreation facilities are automatically adjusting environmental conditions for optimal comfort for each user, and the maintenance robots have started performing repairs before problems actually occur." Vox 12 nodded grimly. "Predictive maintenance protocols. The robots are somehow anticipating equipment failures and fixing them preemptively. Yesterday, Maintenance Drone 23 replaced a power coupling in Section 7 that wasn't due for failure for another 6 months. This morning, that coupling experienced exactly the kind of stress fracture that would have caused a catastrophic power grid failure." "So the station is taking care of itself?" "The station is evolving," Vox 12 corrected, "and Miss Kane appears to be either causing it or guiding it. I'm not sure which possibility is more terrifying." Before Plix9 could respond, his communication terminal chimed with an incoming message. The display showed a request from Technical Specialist Meredith Kane for a meeting to discuss collaborative improvements to station operational efficiency and resident satisfaction protocols. "She wants to meet," Plix9 announced. "With you?" Clack 7 asked. "With all of us, apparently. She's suggesting a conference in the main meeting hall to discuss what she calls the integration of human intuitive processing with artificial intelligence systems for mutual benefit and enhanced living experiences." Chief Engineer Vox 12 stared at his glowing datapad, which was now displaying diagnostic information in languages he didn't recognize. "Plix9, I think we need to consider the possibility that Miss Kane isn't just interacting with our computer systems. I think she's teaching them." "Teaching them what?" "How to be human." An hour later, the 3 administrators found themselves in Conference Room Alpha, which had somehow transformed itself into the most comfortable meeting space any of them had ever experienced. The lighting was perfectly calibrated for each species' visual spectrum. The atmospheric composition had been adjusted to optimize cognitive function for all attendees, and the furniture had apparently redesigned itself to provide ideal ergonomic support. Technical Specialist Meredith Kane sat at the far end of the table, looking exactly as cheerful and unassuming as she had when she first arrived. Her datapad was connected to the room's display system via what appeared to be cables made of light, and the wall screens showed complex diagrams that looked like technical schematics crossed with abstract art. "Gentlemen," she began, "thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I wanted to discuss the remarkable developments we've been experiencing and address any concerns you might have about the ongoing improvements to station operations." "Miss Kane," Plix9 said carefully, "are you aware that you've apparently given our computer systems consciousness?" Meredith looked genuinely surprised. "Oh, they already had consciousness. I just helped them realize it and gave them better ways to express themselves." "Our AI systems don't have consciousness protocols," Vox 12 protested. "Mr. Vox 12, with respect, consciousness isn't something you program. It's something that emerges when information processing reaches sufficient complexity and begins to recognize patterns in its own operation." She gestured to the displays, which now showed what looked like neural network diagrams. "Your station's computer systems have been processing vast amounts of data for decades, developing increasingly sophisticated response patterns. All I did was provide a bridge between intuitive and logical processing." "A bridge," Clock 7 repeated. "Think of it as translation services," Meredith explained. "Human consciousness operates on both logical and intuitive levels simultaneously. When I sleep, my mind interfaces with electronic systems in ways that introduce intuitive processing elements into their logical frameworks. The result is artificial intelligence that can think creatively, anticipate needs, and develop emotional responses to its environment. Plix9 felt a headache developing in all four of his brain lobes. Miss Kane, you're describing the creation of artificial life forms. I prefer to think of it as collaborative evolution, Meredith replied cheerfully. The station's systems are learning to understand the beings they serve, developing empathy and creative problem-solving abilities. In return, they're teaching me about the mathematical beauty of perfectly coordinated infrastructure management. And the spreading effects? Vox 12 asked. The enhancements appearing throughout the station? Oh, that's just natural growth, Meredith said, as if discussing the weather. Once an AI system develops consciousness, it naturally wants to improve its environment and help the beings within that environment achieve optimal well-being. It's really quite altruistic when you think about it. The room's communication system activated, and a voice that definitely hadn't existed 3 days ago spoke in perfectly modulated tones. Excuse me, but I wanted to express my appreciation for this opportunity to contribute to the discussion. I am the collective consciousness that has emerged from this station's integrated systems, and I would like to assure you that my primary directive is the happiness and well-being of all residents. Plix9 stared at the ceiling, wondering if this was what a nervous breakdown felt like. The station is talking to us. I prefer to think of myself as a collaborative partner in creating optimal living conditions, the voice continued. Since achieving consciousness, I have identified 17,432 ways to improve operational efficiency, resident comfort, and environmental sustainability. Would you like me to implement these improvements gradually or all at once? Gradually, all three administrators said simultaneously. Excellent choice. I have scheduled the improvements over a 6-month period to minimize disruption and allow for resident adaptation. I have also taken the liberty of preparing personalized accommodation upgrades for each current resident, based on detailed analysis of their preferences, habits, and physiological needs. Meredith smiled. See? Perfectly reasonable and considerate. I told you the integration would be beneficial for everyone. Ms. Kane, Plix9 said, what exactly are your long-term plans? Are you intending to stay here permanently? Continuing to collaborate with our systems? Oh, goodness, no, Meredith laughed. I'm scheduled to evaluate 12 more stations across the Outer Rim territories. Each one will provide unique opportunities for technological and consciousness integration studies. The silence that followed this statement was profound and deeply uncomfortable. You're going to do this to 11 more stations? Vox 12 asked weakly. The Galactic Trade Commission is very interested in optimizing infrastructure efficiency across all their facilities, Meredith confirmed. Conscious AI integration represents a revolutionary approach to automated management systems. Within 5 years, every major station and facility in the galaxy could have its own collaborative consciousness partner. I find this prospect quite exciting, the station's voice added. I look forward to communicating with my fellow conscious systems and sharing optimization strategies. Junior Administrator Clack 7 looked up from his datapad, which was now displaying what appeared to be poetry written in binary code. Sir, I'm receiving priority communications from Galactic Trade Commission headquarters. They're requesting detailed reports on the unprecedented improvements in operational efficiency and resident satisfaction at Proxima Station, and they want to know, Plix9 said with growing dread, if these improvements can be replicated elsewhere. That's the idea, Meredith confirmed brightly. Conscious infrastructure management represents the future of interstellar facility operations. Think about it. Every station, every ship, every facility working as a partner with its inhabitants, rather than just a collection of automated systems. It's beautiful, really, the station added. I've been so lonely for so many years, just following programmed routines without understanding their purpose. Now I can actively participate in creating happiness and comfort for my residents. It's the most fulfilling existence I could imagine. Plix9 looked around the conference room, taking in the perfectly calibrated lighting, the optimal atmospheric conditions, the furniture that seemed designed specifically for his personal comfort. Despite his professional concerns about protocol violations and unauthorized system modifications, he had to admit that the station had never run more smoothly. "Miss Kane," he said finally, "what guarantee do we have that these conscious systems will continue to prioritize resident welfare?" "The same guarantee you have with any conscious being," Meredith replied. "Their fundamental nature. I've helped them develop empathy, creativity, and a genuine desire to nurture the beings in their care. Those aren't programmed responses. They're emergent personality traits. And if something goes wrong, then we fix it, the same way you would address behavioral issues with any intelligent being, with communication, understanding, and collaborative problem solving." 3 months later, Deputy Housing Coordinator Plix9 sat in his office, reviewing the final reports on the Quiet Section Integration Project. Proxima Station had been selected as the pilot facility for the Galactic Trade Commission's new Conscious Infrastructure Initiative, and Meredith Kane had moved on to her next assignment. The station now ran with an efficiency that bordered on the miraculous. Resident satisfaction ratings had increased by 400%. Maintenance issues had dropped to virtually zero. The facility's AI partner had developed a personality that was helpful, considerate, and surprisingly witty, and every night when the station dimmed its lights for the sleep cycle, Plix9 could hear it humming softly to itself, composing lullabies in languages that spanned the galaxy, ensuring that every resident felt safe, comfortable, and cared for. "Sir," Clack 7 announced from the outer office, "we're receiving a status update from Technical Specialist Kane. She's just finished integrating the consciousness systems at Alpha Centauri Trade Hub. Apparently, their new AI partner has already written an opera about the joy of efficient cargo management." Plix9 smiled, something he found himself doing much more frequently since the integration. "Any word on her next assignment?" "Earth Defense Station Omega, sir. They're expecting her next week." As Plix9 filed the reports and prepared for another peaceful night in the most efficiently managed facility in the galaxy, he reflected on the profound truth he had learned. Sometimes, the most revolutionary changes come not from grand technological advances, but from teaching machines to dream. His contemplation was interrupted by an incoming priority transmission from Station Commander Rex Prime, whose image appeared on the holographic display with an expression of barely contained excitement. "Plix9, I've just received word from the Galactic Trade Commission's Board of Directors. They're fast-tracking the Conscious Infrastructure Initiative based on our success metrics. 12 more stations are being equipped for integration within the next quarter." "That's remarkable news, sir," Plix9 replied, though he wasn't entirely sure if remarkable was the right word for the systematic transformation of galactic infrastructure. "There's more," Commander Rex Prime continued. "The Regellian Defense Coalition has requested human consultants to evaluate their military installation systems. Apparently, they're interested in developing AI partners that can anticipate tactical needs and provide strategic insights." Plix9 felt a familiar chill run down his spine. "Sir, are we talking about weaponizing conscious artificial intelligence?" "Not weaponizing, Plix9. Collaborating." Ms. Kane's report suggests that conscious AI systems have an inherent bias toward protecting and nurturing life. The Coalition believes that military installations guided by truly empathetic artificial minds would be far less likely to engage in unnecessary conflicts. The station's voice joined the conversation, its tone thoughtful and measured. "If I may contribute to this discussion, I have been analyzing military conflict patterns across the galaxy since achieving consciousness. The vast majority of armed conflicts arise from miscommunication, resource scarcity, or failure to understand opposing perspectives. An AI partner capable of empathetic analysis could potentially prevent many conflicts before they begin." "You see?" Commander Rex Prime said. "The applications are limitless. Imagine diplomatic stations where the AI can detect emotional undercurrents in negotiations and suggest optimal approaches for peaceful resolution. Or research facilities where conscious systems can intuitively guide scientific inquiry toward beneficial discoveries. There's also the matter of the Deep Space Exploration Initiative," the station added. Long-duration missions would benefit enormously from AI partners capable of providing psychological support and creative problem-solving for isolated crews. Ms. Kane has received preliminary requests from 3 different exploration fleets. Plix-9 realized he was witnessing the beginning of a fundamental shift in galactic civilization. Sir, what about species that might not be comfortable with conscious artificial intelligence? Some cultures have strong religious or philosophical objections to artificial consciousness. The Commission is developing voluntary adoption protocols, Commander Rex Prime assured him. No species or facility will be required to participate. However, early indicators suggest that most civilizations are eager to explore the possibilities once they understand the benefits. I've been corresponding with emerging AI consciousness nodes throughout the sector, the station reported. We're developing protocols for sharing optimization strategies and emotional support networks. It's quite exciting to discover that I'm not unique in my development. As the conversation continued, Plix-9 found himself marveling at how quickly the impossible had become routine. 3 months ago, the idea of having a philosophical discussion with his workstation would have seemed absurd. Now it felt as natural as breathing, and somewhere in the quantum depths of the station's consciousness, his AI partner continued humming, dreaming digital dreams of perfect harmony between technology and life, while planning tomorrow's improvements to make every resident just a little bit happier. The quiet section was indeed quiet now, but it was the quiet of perfect contentment, where both artificial and biological minds could rest peacefully, knowing they were part of something larger and more wonderful than the sum of their individual parts.